this afternoon, we went back towards the area that we found all of our sign in, but we went north of it and stopped down the road and turned back in and walked in from the backside. We're about 400 yards from I'm about 400 yards from it. I stopped right here. A beautiful spot. I was standing back right over here, and Buddy was standing over here and walking down this edge and looking for sign. And I found a leaf shaking like that. Anyway, I was walking back down here and I was looking down in there, and it just looked amazing. And I was like, I'm thinking about setting up right here. I have a really tall ridge on that side, really tall ridge behind me. Thermals are being pulled down behind me this way. And there's actually a couple shooting lanes that I can shoot onto that ridge up there. Looking, one of them's directly in front of me, which works out pretty good. And it's pretty vertical. So if one walks through, I got, at least my slide opportunity. Well, if it comes from my left, I see it coming, I can be ready. But we were walking down here, and he kind of did a light whistle at me. And I was thinking in my head, like, I'm thinking about setting up right here. And because this is either a really good sign or a really bad sign. There's a climber about 45 yards in front of me. Looks like he was set up for bow hunting. Now, this is a muzzleloader weekend here, or a muzzleloader hunt here. And so I got my muzzleloader. If I had my safety harness and stuff, I'd probably go borrow whoever's climber that is. But I don't, so I'm not going to climb. So I back up off of it, got next to this giant old longleaf pine, and set up. It fell over during a storm or something. It's derooted. It's rooted up. So I got a little bit of blend, especially behind me where all that deadfall's right there behind me, off of this tree. I can see a good bit in the bottom. I feel really good about this spot. So I'm going to shut up. We're going to be quiet. It's 3 o'clock. Got about 2 hours, 2.5. 2:15. 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. Of course, it's probably going to get dark earlier down here than it is normally, but this is still learning. Tomorrow it's supposed to rain all day, so we'll have to wing it and see what goes on. See if it actually if it actually rains all day, it pulls in Alabama. It just rains for a little bit and then gets out of here. So, but we are really focusing on hard for Sunday, because Sunday is supposed to be really cool. It's supposed to be really cold Saturday night, and it's supposed to just be a freaking beautiful day. So we are trying to understand what it is. Sunday's our last day, and we're really trying to figure out how to get in here and kill a deer on Sunday. If something comes by right here, awesome. It's gonna be a fun get out. It's gonna be a lot of work getting it out, but still, maybe we can see something this afternoon. Got Buddy going on down, and then Zach's hunting. Todd Brogdon with Native Sense. This is our first ever opposition public land. I don't know how much we pulled that name out, but it is what is our challenge. The public land's our challenge, and it's our opponent. Public land's our opponent. We're trying to not beat it, but tie with it, trying to kill something, trying to understand it. So welcome, and let's see what happens this afternoon.
lounge hat, decided to smoke them out. But I did give myself or two things that builds confidence for coming back, or three things actually. There's a hot doe somewhere around here. The does got split up from the buck, and the does, I think, don't have any bucks with them, or they didn't when I left, because the buck ran this way and the does ran that way. So hopefully they'll try to get back together, or there's going to be bucks in here looking for those does, or those does are going to be back and they're going to be chased by a buck. The third thing is I've got 2 little scent wicks of native scents, and they are soaked to slap full of seduction. And then I made a little bitty mock scrape on a tree that was already rubbed, and I just sprayed a little deception around it. My wind's a little funny. It's blowing like down this bottom, but I'm hoping that my wind being completely above this thicket and then having like a ridge right there, I'm hoping it'll kind of flare up instead of dropping down into that thicket is bad. But most of the activity has been right here, so my wind's not blowing right there, but my native scent is being pushed into that thicket. So I hung them up at like 9 o'clock. They've had plenty of time to soak. I'm sure something's got a nose full of it, and hopefully something bigger than that little 6-point I shot at this morning comes by. But if he comes back through, he's not going to be quite as lucky as he was this morning. So we got a lot of rain coming in tomorrow. It's warm, really warm today. It's crazy. It went from like 40 degrees and like felt like 10 to now it feels like 80 and it's like 60 something supposedly. But they're chasing, they in the thick stuff, and I'm back at it. If this don't work out this morning, I'm either gonna get out of here and use the rain tomorrow to my advantage to find some new stuff, or check in some old stuff that I haven't been to this year, or I'm just gonna lay low and come back tomorrow or Sunday and kill a buck in here. I don't know, something along those lines is gonna happen, but I'm looking forward to this evening on it. If I don't see anything, I'll know why. guys, I've sat here since daylight, and it is now 8 o'clock. I normally probably wouldn't do something like this, but these pine needles are so quiet, and we got the wind cover too. It almost doesn't make as near as much sense to sit down as it does to get up and start moving a little bit. So, I haven't seen anything here. I'm thinking if, on one hand, I think those deer are bedding really close to where I saw them yesterday, because they were on the side of the road at like 2 p.m. It was actually 1:45. They were standing on the side of the road. This is the closest thicket to where they were on this side of the road. So, if they left their bed that early to be out there by 1, they probably bedded close, and they're probably gonna come back here fairly late. Maybe. Or they're just not bedded here, and yesterday was a weird day. Which it was a weird day. But they might have got chased out. If I spot something that somehow doesn't spot me first, I will attempt to get the camera out and take a shot or something. But I'm gonna pack up and we'll start walking. Alright, so part of this trip is scouting for either a couple weeks from now or next time we come here. So on my way out, I decided to drop into the next bottom over from where I was. There's a nice creek running through here, and I was like, I came down, I was up on this ridge somewhere, and I see this really nice rub, and I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big rub. And then I walk down a little bit, I find even more rubs. You can see right here, there's this rub on this tree, and then that tree back there is just thrashed. None of these rubs are like super giant, but I knew immediately what I hoped it was. I walk over to the creek, and there's a creek crossing there, and then if you look, you see where all these sticks are piled up. On the other side of that, it almost acts like a dam, and it's dry ground to get around, and of course deer cross that too because it's easy. But this is like decade-old creek crossing. Like there's rubs out here that look like they're older than me on some of these little trees, and I don't know. This seems like a good historical spot, so I'm gonna walk back to the truck. It ain't super far. I'm gonna walk back to the truck and see if I can't get a camera up in a tree here. Maybe 2. Haven't decided. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna have to make this quick, but it's the last morning of the hunt. I'm going back to where I missed that buck. Got some native scents in there, some seduction, even a little bit of deception. And but it rained all day yesterday. Basically it started raining when we got back to our trucks from the morning hunt, and it didn't stop till about 4 o'clock, or about 3:30. 4 o'clock we tried to do a little quickie hunt close to the road in an area where we saw some deer on the side of the road, but didn't really work out for any of us, didn't see much sign. So anyway, I'm headed back in. I'm hoping with that rain and just leaving that spot be for a day, it should have pulled some deer back into that bedding area, and hopefully one of them's hot or one of them's a big buck that's looking for whatever left that seduction, and I'll just be sitting up there waiting with my whole muzzle loader. So hopefully it all works out this morning. I gotta get in there pretty quick. It's already just now starting to break a little bit of gray light, so I'll see you guys when I get there. Hopefully I can actually set up my camera this time. I had a little seduction down there. Just got sat down in my spot. I had a little seduction down there on some scent wicks, but it rained for like 9 hours yesterday. So I've got an idea. Got some seduction. Which the wind ain't great for using scents, but seduction, pine cone. Meh. If I just missed that pig, I don't know what happened. If that pig just, I don't know how he ran away. Secondly, if he did, I don't know how he would have made it far. Unless my gun's just way freaking off. Because I put that crosshair in the center of his shoulder, just a little farther forward than you would a deer. So, dang it, spilled out some of that powder. That pig ain't dead, I don't know. I'm gonna have to completely resight this gun in. Well guys, looks like I'm about to head to the range. I'm gonna look around here one more good time. Try to figure out, what all's going on. But first bad sign. That's not where that pig kicked up. That's where that bullet hit the ground. Well guys, made it back to camp. I did make it to the range, and I think so. I shot the gun. It's hitting dead on. I shot it at 50 yards, and I hit like exactly behind my crosshairs. So I don't know. I think what happened was a combination of two things. Number one, I think the biggest issue was, well, number one, when I pulled the trigger, you can hear it in the clip, in the footage. It's, the hammer goes back and then it goes off. It was a tiny bit of a hang fire. Click, pow! Just a little bit of a hang fire. And I may have reacted to the full shot when the hammer went down, not holding it steady. That may have been part of it. Probably was part of it. Also, like about 10 feet in front of me or so, there was one stick that was about as big around as a pencil, and the top, it was like cleanly cut, and it was like spread out like a bullet had hit that stick. So not only did I have a little bit of a hang fire that probably most likely threw me off, I hit that stick that probably most likely deflected that bullet a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. Bullet did not make it to the pig, I don't think. I found exactly where it was standing, found where the bullet hit the ground. I looked all over those leaves. I followed all the running through the thicket, out the other side of this little thicket and up the hill into another thicket. I could see where they were kicking up leaves in that mess, and I followed it a long way, never saw any sign of blood or anything. So, I don't know. Which, it's a pig. I'm not too worried about it, but it just makes me mad that I've missed twice on this trip in 3 days. But I'm going to get out of that spot. If I have time after I pack up my tent and start helping Buddy and Cade with Buddy's tent, if I have some time, I would really like to go hang a camera in there where I was at today, because I've just had so much activity in there. And then I'm going to go to the spot I went the first morning, but I'm going to get down in where I found some really good signs. So that's the plan for today, I think. And I don't know, hopefully it all works out. I'm going to try to get set up like up my tree ready to go at like noon, because it's the only spot I found that you can actually climb and it makes sense to climb. So that's basically it. I'm gonna get the tent packed up.
Good morning, guys. So this is the last day, and opposite public land has kicked our butt so far, but we are to a place that I really had some reason to pull me right here. I'm 600-700 yards from all the sound we found the other day, but this is the original pin I dropped when I was virtual scouting. So I've been standing in some small pines right now, about 100 yards off the road. Sun's starting to come up. I'm about to start easing back, but I want to wait till daylight so I could see, so I didn't make any noise, because I don't have where I'm at right now, I don't have a huge section. I had to go back out on the road and walk a ways down to get into more woodage. So it's a small section we're hopefully gonna see some deer out of. I just feel good right about this. I think this is overlooked, and I'm hoping that I hope this is overlooked, and hopefully there's some deer back here. So I'm gonna ease back here and see what's going on. I don't know if this audio caught any of that. Y'all can guess what that is. But I have found the turkeys. I've had about 4 or 5 fly off. They're butting a little bit, but they're roosted in these tiny pines. I'm not used to that. But this is awesome for future reference. If I decide to come up here on a turkey hunt, I guarantee you this will be one of the first places I try. I think I'm about to go down this mountain. I've been waiting to kind of look, because I ain't been back here yet. But big mountain works down through there and got a big U around it. And I don't think there's not any more up other than the other side of the big creek area that I'm working towards. I wanted to get next to some water this morning. Deer ought to be moving. So guys, I set up on this ridge, headed down to that bottom that's full of water. Behind me is that pond that I'll overlay. Big pond. I ain't seen a whole lot of sign right here as far as like scrapes or anything, but it is slap full of trails working through here that are pretty fresh. So I figure I might catch them working down right through here. There's a lot of traveling that goes on right here. I love travel corridors, especially during major movement time, so maybe some will come work through here.
What we're about to do, going in here on our last set. Seen some good activity in here this morning. Saw a few does, a couple bucks. We'll go ahead and see if we can get on them. I got Cade with me. Let's go off in here, Cade. Get on a buck.
Let's go try it anyway. Alright guys, so just walked about a mile roughly around a big mountain, looping in some young pines, and I'm set up, and I believe in a pretty good spot. I got a little young bottom in front of me. It's a big plateau, hillside running down. I know there's deer in the area. Buddy, me and Buddy first morning scouted a little bit behind this and on down the other way, and we've been struggling to find deer by the sign. So so this morning I asked him to drop me scouted all of this and saw 2 bucks, two legal bucks. One was a big 6, the other one was an 8. So this pine, these young pines, are like 500 yards across. So we were talking about it, and he said, hey, he told me to come over, and he'd get on one side and I get on the other, and increase our chances of maybe shooting a buck this afternoon. It's our last sit before we gotta drive home tonight. So we'll get that buck. It's gonna be a long night if one of us shoot one, but that's what we came up here to do. I have to be at work tomorrow, so it ought to be fun. But this is a freaking awesome jam up spot. I mean, you couldn't beat this right here with a stick. And there's plenty of sticks around. So maybe we'll see something. I'm gonna give it a little bit of quiet. I might try some light grunts. Might get desperate in that last 30 or 45 minutes. Might try a little bit of rattling. I ain't tried rattling here. It's a jam up spot. Should have been on there the whole time. There's deer. I've seen a couple small scrapes coming in, but there's fresh, like within the past few hours, deer mess right over there, and there is tracks, like fresh tracks. So it rained really hard yesterday, and there is fresh tracks all the way through here. So we're really this is really the pre-rut. There's some chasing. Zach's seen some chasing. So I figured this is our last hoorah. So I've used almost a whole bottle of Native Scent Seduction. And I got a little bit more, and I'm going to spray it. Just a spray here and there. To cover me up, but I have scent wicks starting from behind me, and then I have 4 set up right here in front of me in a semicircle. I'm hoping that maybe that'll cover me, my scent up, and maybe be attracted. This wind is pretty still, but it's swirling just a little bit. It's supposed to be due out of northeast, which if it's due out of northeast, it should be hitting me in my face. But down here in these bottoms, and the bottom of these mountains, it tends to swirl a little bit. So I'm about to be quiet, and hopefully we see some deer this afternoon. Hopefully we see a good buck, and maybe we can get a shot on him. It's gonna be tight. I can shoot. This is my favorite lane, but I turn more this way so I can more comfortably shoot that way. So maybe if something comes through either way. Maybe something come by pretty soon, so y'all stay tuned.
the set. I made it sound like I was making a scrape, did a couple grunts, and now I hear something walking towards me, but at a pretty good clip. If this works out, it's going to be crazy, but I don't know how I'm going to film it. The reason I set up here, instead of where I was going to go all the way to the clear cut, and I still might here in a little bit, but I just jumped a deer in this bottom that I think might have been a buck, and this bottom to my left feeds straight to a giant swamp, and so this bottom that leads up to this big saddle right here, or this little saddle is what I saw a doe in the very first morning, and so this saddle connects that other bottom, which is right next to the clear cut, to this bottom, which feeds straight down into a big nasty swamp. So it's kind of a classic rut spot. I don't see much hunting sign here. It's also a food plot not super far, so I don't really know. I've only sat here I was like super confident in sitting here, and then like I've sat down for 10 minutes and I've lost all my confidence, so I'm probably about to move. I brought all my saddle stuff in to go to one specific spot and climb a tree, and now I'm only 250 yards away from it or so. I don't know. This has been a little bit of a weird day, but alright, I'm moving. I don't know why. I don't know why I even sat down here. I'm moving. Sat my back down next to about 5 trees. I've contemplated about everything you could possibly contemplate. Now it's finally found me a spot to set up. This is the place I ended up the first morning. There's some giant rubs in this general area. There's a couple cedars that were like that big around. Shredded. Some of it was kind of fresh. And then over here there were some really big rubs down in the creek and around the creek. So I think there's a really, really big buck in this area, and I'm kicking myself for not bringing a camera in here. And I also, even though I'm set up on the clear cut right now, I have a feeling that these deer are probably focused on, or they're probably living in the swamp back there more so than this clear cut. But I still feel like there's a lot of deer in this area, and there's a lot of bucks, or there's a decent amount of bucks, and then there's one big old mamma jamma that comes through he's in here somewhere. And honestly, today, if a doe walks out 5 minutes from now, I'll probably smoke her. Or try to. I'll probably miss her, to be honest. I don't know how I've been so unlucky than to have 2 misses in 3 days. Both possibly caused by the same thing. Maybe I should just take a little extra care before I take a shot. Make for dang sure I ain't hitting no little bitty twigs that are about, like a pencil lead. But anyway, I'm gonna sit here, probably do a little calling, probably do a little setting. Hope for the best.